Let's talk about rice. It's one of the most important foods on the entire planet. And you'd think we have it all figured out by now, right? Well, a huge new review of a decade's worth of science just uncovered a massive blind spot in how we're trying to protect it. So, what on earth are we missing? Let's get into it.
And this isn't just some academic question, you know? The stability of the world's rice supply is global food security. For literally half the people on Earth, this is the most essential crop there is.
4 billion people. Just let that number sink in. That's how many people depend on rice for the bulk of their daily calories. Its importance, especially across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, well, you just can't overstate it.
But here's the rub. Farmers are getting hit from all sides. They're dealing with crazy weather, soaring temperatures, and fewer resources to work with, all while the world's population just keeps needing more. So, how are we supposed to solve for all of that at once? Well, the first thing you have to understand is that growing rice successfully isn't simple. It's actually this incredibly complex dance of dozens of different factors that are all tangled up together.
So, first you've got the stuff happening right there on the farm, the variables you'd probably expect. What kind of seeds are they using? How much fertilizer? How are they managing water, pests, and the soil? These are, the fundamentals of farming.
But then, farmers have to deal with Mother Nature. A farmer can do absolutely everything right, but a sudden flood, a brutal drought, a heat wave, or even just the slow creep of salt into the soil can wreck a whole season. And climate change? It's basically turning the volume up on all of these risks.
And it doesn't stop there. What about the human element? Can farmers even find people to help with planting and harvesting? And can they afford to pay them? Can they get a loan to buy better equipment? What happens if the price they get for their rice suddenly crashes? All of this plays a huge, huge role.
And finally, you have to zoom out to the really big picture. Things like government policies and subsidies can totally change the game. And what about access to technology? We're talking everything from tractors to a simple weather app. All of it, even something as basic as a decent road to get your crops to market, is a critical piece of this giant puzzle.
So with all these different pieces in play, you'd assume that scientists are studying all of them, right? That they're looking at the whole puzzle? Well, that massive review of all the recent research, it found something else entirely.
So what a team of researchers did was a kind of study of studies. They took 301 different scientific papers on rice production from the last 10 years, and they put them all under the microscope to see, okay, where is all the scientific attention really going?
And this really gets to the core of what we're talking about today. Given this huge tangled web of farming, environmental, economic, and policy issues, where are we putting our time and money? The answer is pretty shocking, actually.
And here it is. This is the big reveal. The chart shows how often each of those categories we just talked about was studied. Just look at that top bar for the agronomic factors, the on-the-farm stuff. It completely dwarfs everything else. It's not even close.
Let's make this even simpler. Look at it this way. The amount of research focused on farming techniques, fertilizer, seeds, irrigation, is greater than all the research on environmental, socio-economic, technological, and policy factors combined. The scientific world has been almost completely focused on what's happening inside the field. And this quote from the study really nails down why this is such a problem. It says that connections between topics were weak. In other words, the studies about farming techniques almost never connected their findings to things like economics or government policy. Everyone was just staying in their own narrow lane.
So what's the big deal? Why does this kind of research tunnel vision matter? Well, it matters because in the real world, all these things are connected. And if you ignore those connections, you end up with solutions that don't actually work for the people you're trying to help.
This is exactly what we mean by research silos. It's when one group of scientists is over here studying the heck out of fertilizer, but they never connect their work to what the economists over there are finding out about market prices.
So for example, a study might create the perfect fertilizer plan. Awesome. But it might completely ignore whether farmers can actually afford that fertilizer, or if they can even get a loan to buy it in the first place. A new amazing seed variety is totally useless if there's nobody available to harvest the extra crop it produces. Think of it like this. It's like trying to fix a really complicated car engine by only ever looking at the spark plugs. I mean, yeah, the spark plugs are essential, but the real problem might be the fuel line, or the battery, or the onboard computer. If you want to fix the system, you have to understand the whole system. The good news, though, is that identifying a problem like this is the single biggest step toward actually fixing it. And this research paper gives us a really clear roadmap for a better way forward.
And the solution is to shift from this siloed way of thinking to a systems-level approach. What that really means is that research has to start connecting the dots. How does a new farming method hold up under climate stress? Is it actually affordable for small-scale farmers? And will local government policies help it succeed or cause it to fail?
At the end of the day, this isn't about writing more interesting academic papers. It's about developing real solutions that are tough, that are practical, and that actually work in the messy real world. That's how we build a food system that can actually handle the shocks that are coming our way.
Which leaves us with this final big question. The science seems to be screaming at us that if we want to secure the future of this incredibly vital food source, we have to lift our eyes and look beyond the fields, to understand that the health of the plant is tied to the health of the entire system that surrounds it.